Hello, my name is Daniel Kent. Today is August 23rd, 2020. This is my Case Connections 4 video. In this video, I will be discussing my analysis of cases 2 and 3. We will begin with case 2. Case 2. In this case, patients A and B received a presumptive diagnosis of phenylketonuria. Phenylketonuria is a condition that causes increased levels of the amino acid phenylalanine to accumulate in the body. In cases of classic phenylketonuria, there is a defect in the enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase. In atypical phenylketonuria, there is either a defect in the enzyme dihydrobiopterin reductase or in the biosynthesis of dihydrobiopterin. Without phenylalanine hydroxylase, the reaction which converts phenylalanine to tyrosine does not occur, and phenylalanine will accumulate in the body. Tyrosine is required for the biosynthesis of many molecules, such as dopamine and melanin. When the conversion of phenylalanine does not occur, tyrosine becomes an essential amino acid because it must be supplied through dietary means. To confirm the presumptive diagnosis and assess the patient's phenylalanine levels, both patients were given tetrahydrobiopterin loading tests. The patient's blood was drawn before the loading tests were administered, 4 hours after the loading tests were administered, and 8 hours after the loading tests were administered. Tetrahydrobiopterin is an essential coenzyme for the conversion of phenylalanine to tyrosine. Administration of this loading test was intended to help clinicians ascertain whether these patients were suffering from classic phenylketonuria or atypical phenylketonuria. In patient A, phenylalanine levels continued to rise over the 8-hour period. This indicated that the tetrahydrobiopterin loading was not effective, and the patient was likely suffering from classic phenylketonuria. In cases of classic phenylketonuria, the patient lacks phenylalanine hydroxylase. An addition of the tetrahydrobiopterin cofactor would not result in the conversion of phenylalanine to tyrosine, as the enzymatic deficiency prevents the reaction from occurring. In patient B, phenylalanine levels dropped significantly over the 8-hour period. The effectiveness of the tetrahydrobiopterin loading indicated that patient B was likely suffering from atypical phenylketonuria. In cases of atypical phenylketonuria, the enzyme dihydrobiopterin reductase is deficient. Dihydrobiopterin reductase is essential to convert dihydrobiopterin into tetrahydrobiopterin. If tetrahydrobiopterin levels are low, the conversion of phenylalanine to tyrosine would be inhibited. When patient B was given the tetrahydrobiopterin loading dose, the deficiency of tetrahydrobiopterin was supplemented, resulting in an increased use of phenylalanine. That concludes case 2. We're now moving on to case 3. Case 3. In this case, a 47-year-old man presents with a suspected case of gout. The patient's blood was drawn and his urine was collected. Upon analysis of the patient's blood and urine, it was found that the patient's plasma urate levels were elevated at 10.5 milligrams per 100 milliliters, and his urinary uric acid levels were almost half that of normal levels at 215 milligrams per 24 hours. Gout is typically caused by excess sodium urate, which crystallizes in the soft tissues and joints, which results in an inflammatory response in the body. The best explanation for the presentation of gout in this patient is a decrease in the excretion of uric acid. In humans, uric acid is usually excreted in the urine. If there is a deficiency in the excretion of uric acid, then the uric acid would build up in the patient's blood, and the amount of uric acid found in the urine would be below expected levels. These assumptions are consistent with the patient's lab results. The overproduction of purines and decreased salvage of purines are both poor explanations for the presentation of gout in this patient. If overproduction of purines was the cause of the patient's gout, then it would be expected that blood serum urate levels would be elevated and the amount of uric acid found in the urine would be elevated. Similarly, a decrease in the salvage of purines would result in an increase in both the blood serum urate levels and the amount of uric acid found in the urine. Neither of these cases are consistent with the data provided. In order to determine the root cause of this patient's gout, additional information is required. In the salvage of purines, purines are converted to mononucleotides. The process of purine salvage requires the enzyme HGPRT in order to catalyze the reaction involving the phosphoribosylation of PRPP, which converts adenine, hypoxanthine, and guanine to the respective nucleotides. If this enzyme is deficient, the metabolism of purines would be inhibited and would cause a rise in intracellular PRPP. The rise in intracellular PRPP would result in purine overproduction. An additional test to determine the levels of HGPRT in the blood would help identify a possible deficiency in this enzyme. The patient informed the clinician that he consumes a large amount of soda every day. The primary sugar in most sodas is fructose, or high fructose corn syrup. Fructose has been proven to increase uric acid production by increasing ATP degradation to AMP, which is a precursor to uric acid. Additionally, studies have shown that fructose accelerates de novo purine synthesis, which also increases the production of uric acid. Increased uric acid production would increase the patient's risk of gout. That concludes my Case 3 analysis. Thank you for watching this video.